and good morning. Welcome to Attacking Third. I'm Sandra Herrera alongside Christine Cupo, Satara Murray, and we're back with all things women's soccer. We're going to chat, of course, Women's Champions League. It's back. The league phase is entering into match day 3. So we're going to go ahead and do a little previewing of those matches that you could catch later today. And of course, we're going to chat all things NWSL playoffs because we got some brackets to revisit, some picks and predictions. We like to run it back and have a little fun with it. And, we'll get to that towards the end, but I'm going to give you the praise now, Kupo, because I miss you. How you been? I hope you've been gloating because your brackets are
You
intact.
know what? I needed the win coming back because I actually just came back from my first vacation in 3 years and like my first family vacation since I think I was like 17. So I got home and then the next thing I knew, I was screaming at my TV as one does as a relaxation event. And then I was like, "Oh my God, I cracked the code. I figured out statistically where the upset would be." And I mean, we'll see how far I ride. If I nail this all the way through, it's a shame that I'm not a gambler.
Ah, yeah. Who among us, right, have not felt similarly? Goodness gracious. So how you been? It's been a little while since I've got to sit down chat with you. Been enjoying all the women's football out there?
Yeah, man, I've been enjoying it. I mean, I was watching the quarterfinals, and I ain't gonna lie, like I had a feeling about Kansas City. Like I said it to myself, really, but I just had a feeling things were gonna go a bit sideways for them. I mean, that always ends up happening in sports. Sometimes
Yeah.
you end up having an amazing regular season, and then come playoffs, it just
American soccer
we
culture.
love it, don't we?
We love it here. We love it here. Oh my goodness. And you know what else we love? We love everybody joining us. We just want to thank everybody for being here once again on A3, whether you're joining us live on YouTube or watching on the Golazo Network. We appreciate you listening to us here on the podcast, and let us know your thoughts too. We want to see and hear how you feel about things, whether it's Women's Champions League or NWSL playoffs. But we've got UWCL games coming up pretty quickly, literally today. You can watch them across Paramount Plus. Let's talk about it. Let's jump right in. I think a big one head to head that folks are going to keep an eye on are Paris Saint Germain and Manchester United. Maybe not so much for the contender of it all, because I think these are some teams that folks are looking at to maybe see what they can do. Maybe not quite up there with the kind of big four that are in place of the title holders in Arsenal and Barca and Lyon, right? And I think Chelsea in that regard. But two teams that can maybe shake things up. And Kupo, there's going to be some attention on the fact that this is essentially the Mary Earps homecoming. Some background in that
Oh,
PSG knocked them out, in the qualifying phase last time, man. You were in Champions League, that's going to be at Old Trafford. So there's like a little bit of heightened, a little bit more, a little bit more pizzazz to this game. What do you maybe anticipate, in the Mary Earps homecoming?
yeah, this is not in essence, it is the homecoming. This is the first Women's Champions League match in Old Trafford since that derby draw against Man City. So this is a massive, massive deal. Now, Mary Earps, I'm sure, especially since she's been the internet's punching bag since her book dropped, knows that the spotlight's on her. Her departure from United was noisy. It was very noisy, mostly. I mean, quite frankly, I don't disagree with her in her statements. It was that she needed to move on to something that was more substantial and supported. And during this time when she had left, that was 1000% accurate and true about United. We're talking about a team who had not managed to get into European football in a serious way. And aside from that, weren't seriously funding their players, their teams. And then on the back of that, they kind of started to back up their talking the whole time and building those training facilities, which they inevitably bumped the women from to give to the men. So a lot of what Mary Earps said was accurate. I just think that it left a little bit of a sore spot for players who had endeared Mary Earps, who world-class goalkeeper, right? Like we're someone we look up to, Lionesses, Man United, makes her departure, considers that PSG is a better place. Is a little bit funny right now given their current form coming back into this, where it says like, hey, maybe PSG, yes, they have the experience in Women's Champions League that Man United lacked and the know-how. However, they're not faring very well. And in contrast to Man United domestically and in Champions League are proving they're worth their medal. So I think for Mary Earps today, and she's not the only player that's played for both teams that'll be featured. I'm sure we'll end up seeing Gronin included off the bench as sort of a sub story in the midfield. PSG, her former club, and then I don't know, Estelle Cascarino, if in fact she's around. That's another crossover story, but I feel like the pressure mounts irrespective when you're coming up against your former club. But for Mary Earps, I do think that you get this level, at least I know I do, like when you're under pressure and you get this air of like self-consciousness around you because you know everyone is focused so on, yeah, she's going to collect booze. But I feel like given her stature and her role in every single goal that she stood, and she's again world class, she's used to the criticism and she's used to the noise and she's used to, I don't want to say abuse because like that's a little bit too far, but the booing and things like that. So I think she'll come into this match knowing like I need to step up and stand out. I need to put my money where my mouth is today. So I think it'll be a compounding pressure, but the kind of pressure that makes diamonds today.
Yeah, I think you are spot on because when, to be honest, when I saw that matchup happening, I actually completely forgot about that crossover with Mary and United. I think because now everything's been going on with her at PSG with this book being released and, her comments about Hannah Hampton and, and so on and so forth. I think perhaps maybe and obviously her making such a big spectacle about leaving both England and United in the way that she did. I almost compared to like when LeBron left Cleveland to go to Miami, making, a big decision about it, and I just think with Mary, knowing Mary, I've played with her before and she'll be up for it for sure, 1000%. I think she thrives on this in a weird way. I think in a way, I think she enjoys the attention that she may get simply because I think that'll probably bring out the best in her. But, I think perhaps people may look at it in a way more so about what's happening off the pitch, about what got released last week with the book. I think in a regard, some people may have lost a little bit of respect for her about what was said, and what came out. It's all fine and dandy to have those opinions. And and trust me, I get it. But to then have it, kind of in your book, then it comes out, I think maybe people will be looking at her with a completely different lens from what was said. But I don't think it's pressure that she'll turn away from. I think if anything, this is where she'll thrive, probably at her best. But you're right. The irony of her leaving United because of the transitions that they were going to, they weren't playing European football, going to a well-renowned club like PSG and having those moments. And, now the irony is now she's there and they're not doing as well as how United is doing, like you said, both domestically and in Europe as well. So I think it'll be a great match. I'm really looking forward to watching it. I think, I think there'll be a lot of eyes on it, but yeah, I think, but I think overall Mary will thrive on this in some capacity.
I don't want to backtrack too far, Satara, but you are someone who's a little bit closer to the Mary Earps situation than, some of the others we've talked to, part of the A3 bench. I'm just curious, and again, this is like a very personal thing, not a broad sweeping thing. Obviously, I want to preface this with that. But given the content of what she had to say, would you feel hurt even if you knew that there was truth to what she said in a we should keep this more veiled situation? Or do you feel like there's some of it that's, hey, this is valid criticism and maybe some of this needs to be let out into the ether as a catalyst for change, but also there'll be some heart feelings along the way?
I think it's a little bit of both. And if I was, if I played with somebody and then, come to find out they weren't probably the biggest fan of me, but, in my face, we were, keeping it cool. I would feel a bit betrayed to an extent because to me, if you have a problem with something that I did or didn't do, you come to me, you speak to me about it personally. Don't go in your book and make this whole big spectacle about it. I would personally feel a type of way. Mind you, I am not Hannah Hampton. I don't know what her feelings are towards the whole situation, but I do think perhaps, I'm trying, and I was trying to look at it from Mary's POV because I think she's giving a reason to justify her reasonings as to why she walked away from England the way in which she did. However, I think there's a right and there's a wrong way to go about it. Perhaps maybe not including it in the book wasn't the best of decisions, but maybe perhaps she felt like she had to get that out to kind of justify as to why she bowed out the way that she did. But if that was me and I'm now reading a book about a former teammate that I played with, I was competing with, enjoying European championships with, and then I come to find out that, I'm this big, problem, I think I would personally feel a type of way about it, honestly.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
And people are gonna it's one of those human interest topics where people are gonna like continue to chat about it, especially in like a high stakes match like this, where there are so many parallels that you can dive into. But I think the key word there is that like it's human interest, right? Like everyone at the end of the day, everyone's like human. Like Mary Earps is gonna have her feelings and thoughts about a situation that she found herself involved in, as would Hannah Hampton. And who knows, maybe like there are players on Man United who are like gonna have their own thoughts and feelings about certain situations and scenarios as well. But I mean, she is the goalkeeper, which is also a position in which we're gonna highlight and say like how's it gonna look, feel, and come down to. And Manchester United also have a pretty good one in themselves, and Falatellis Joyce. I do wonder if maybe that's what this game comes down to as far as like on the pitch. Cupo, you've been on the PTJ hype train for forever. Everybody get
Yeah.
on board. Cupo's, leading the way. They haven't conceded in Champions League. This is the only goalkeeper I think through
Yep.
the two league phase games to have shutouts and really have these shutouts going back to the qualifying rounds. I think it's like through 7 at this point. Just incredible form for Man United. Does that, does any of the high stakes of it all and all of this stuff put more pressure on a player like that?
I think we've seen that Fallon Tullis Joyce has this composure to her that's very placid in situations when, quite frankly, I couldn't be. I'm too volatile. I would just be like losing my mind. She's very good at reorganizing the back line, at figuring out what needs to happen. She is, I feel like, and has been, quite frankly, under the microscope, especially once she got exposure to the US women's national team camp. And with that, the bar has been raised for her. I think she has acclimated really, really well to being the focus of a lot of things, of a lot of analysis, criticism, of being able to step up when and where she must. She's been really good at just controlling matches, distribution of the ball. I see no reason that she would approach this in any other way. She's shown that she's a stabilizer, both domestically and in Champions League. So for a player that really hasn't really had much experience in Europe like this, she's been outstanding. I think she really just has it in her head, locked in. Like, I need to play my game. We know what we're doing, and this doesn't change that.
Satara, I'm gonna go to you for this one as the center back in this equation, because things, yes, we're singing the praises of PTJ, but things might look a little different, in front of her. How they're gonna line up, they're gonna be down a veteran in Janssen. They're gonna maybe tap into Gabby George to flush that out. Walk me through the mindset of that adjustment as a center back, knowing that you're stepping into a big game like this, and what a player needs to do in that kind of positional moment to kind of make sure that you walk away with the 3 points.
Yeah, I would assume that Mark has prepared them leading into this game with the circumstance that Janssen will be missing. Obviously, Gabby is quite experienced within herself. I think kind of how we were just speaking about PTJ not kind of change the way she approaches this. I don't think United's backline will change the way in which they approach this at all, even with the inclusion with Gabby. I think they'll approach this just like any other game. Obviously with them losing this past weekend against Villa, I think they will kind of want to right these wrongs and kind of make up for what happened over the weekend. So I think as a back line, you approach it just how they approach every other Champions League game up to this point. It's not like Gabby is, some inexperienced player. She has a lot of experience under her belt, and she's a great defender at that. So they should be up for this challenge, I think, and especially coming up against a team like PSG. I mean, why not, see where test your limits, see where you guys are at. So, especially with having that experience with PTJ at the back, I suspect that having that guidance, having that demanding and commanding side of her will help that back line for sure.
All right, we'll see how it boils down. It's Mary Earps versus Tullis Joyce. It's hopefully going to be a good one. I'm looking forward to keeping an eye on that one, and it'll have its challenges. But Speaking of challenges, St. Polten's going up against Chelsea. It's, they are in, let's just say, desperate need of some points in the league phase. Not exactly get to the start that they want, and maybe there was be some folks out there who would argue that that's a similar thing for Chelsea. They had to settle for that opening day draw, but had that bounce back with the win. And of course, maybe Americans might be particularly interested in this one because they've got a few Americans on Chelsea that folks might be keeping an eye on, and of course. We got to talk a little bit about Alyssa Thompson. She's coming into this game, riding off some momentum, scoring a banger against Arsenal. I mean, is this more than just Thompson finding her feet right now, Cupo?
That's our $1 million baby. Like, yes, she is. No, I think what we're seeing, again, it's early on, right? However, already what I'm seeing is we know she has pace. Now all of England knows she has pace. But I think we're seeing more nuances develop in her game, more interplay. She's adaptable because she's adapted to a way that the Chelsea want her playing. I think that these are all good positive indicators. I think we're going to see her unlock a few layers that she didn't have, not necessarily that we didn't know she had, that she didn't have yet, because the demands on her are different than she previously had. Before it was, okay, we know the style of NWSL. We know how she was playing. We know what talent she has. Now let's add some more polish. Now let's add some more things that will trip defenders up. And I think we're starting to see that. And we've come into that equation and you realize that, like, okay, like her Cat Macario coming back into form, these are all positives, one for the US, but also just in them playing together.
Yeah. I agree. And I mean, I feel like people, you're like in my brain because those were my exact thoughts. Because Sandra, I think when you and Jess and I were on the last A3 together, we were talking about Alyssa, and how, Alyssa Thompson is different with the US compared to how Alyssa Thompson is with Chelsea.
Yeah.
And I think what we're seeing and I think Cupo, you hit it right on the head. Her role in Chelsea is so much different compared to when she was at Angel City. And she's adding layers to her game that perhaps maybe she didn't have the opportunity to do when she was in the NWSL. And I think she's still, trying to find her feet within it. But I think she's getting into her own at Chelsea, and she's doing it so quickly. And because playing English style of football is so much different than playing over here in the US. And yeah, you may have the speed, but there's other elements to that game over there that is so much different than over here. And I feel like with being so young and having the ability to adapt to that style of football over there, it will only just make her a much better player, which we're already seeing. And I think, we're just, I think each week that we see her, she's just continuing to keep getting better and better. And hopefully we can see that translate into some confidence with the national team as well. So I like, the trajectory in which she's going. I think she's understanding her role. At Chelsea, I don't think it's all on Alyssa compared to how it was when she was at Angel City. She has a nice supporting cast that, can allow her to develop, make mistakes, learn from them and grow. And I think we're eventually going to see an all-around player from Alyssa at some point.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Sorry, Sandra. I think the one thing we're seeing that is like the giant just diamond sitting ready to be plucked is all of the refinements in her actual decision making, especially under pressure already. And again, those are one of the things that like there isn't a metric for, but when you watch her, you can see it because when she's picking out balls, I feel like there's more patience there, less urgency.
Right.
And it's resulted in her being part of a lot more end product for Chelsea.
Right.
No, I think to your point, Cupo, I think like what we're watching is very, very special because there's going to always be those added layers of storylines or narratives around a player when they make those moves, not just club to club, but like league to league.
Right.
And it's like, like Alyssa Thompson's so young, right? She's only scratching the surface of her ceiling. She'll probably need some time to get acclimated or adjusted to Europe and the style of play and their level of competitions that they have. And I'm just like watching this week in, week out, and I'm just like, no, Europe has to get adjusted to Alyssa Thompson.
Right.
That's what's happening here. Going to the center back again, Satara. We got to talk a little bit about Naomi Girma since we touched on Alyssa Thompson and Cat Macario briefly. she's one of the best center backs, if not the best center back in the world. But she's found herself working her way back into form. She's featured on the bench for Chelsea over the last 2 games, and this is another high stakes match where it's like, okay, well, maybe this is where we finally see her make a return to the pitch. Maybe considering the opponent in front of them. Whether she does or doesn't, I mean, what are maybe some of the expectations we should have for a potential return for someone who's working their way back?
Well, first of all, finally, man, it's been some time. I feel like I haven't seen that child play in 5 ever, but I think, she's got to ease her way back in. I don't think we should be expecting her to be the player that she was, before the injuries. But knowing Naomi, she is an all-around professional, and she'll just come out if she gets the opportunity to. She'll just come out, guns blazing as she always does. But I'm excited it's good to see her on the bench, meaning that we're inching closer and closer to her actually now getting some minutes. Perhaps maybe this is an opportunity for her, in the circumstances with this game in particular and who they're playing against. It's not like a Barcelona or, a Lyonnes. So maybe kind of give her that opportunity. But I think if she does get the minutes and does get the moment, just allow her to ease back into it. When a player's been out for that long, you don't, for me personally, I don't want to sit there and be like, oh, I expect her to be at 100, right, her first time around. Right. So I expect her to come in, still obviously give what she gives, but just understand that she is building her way back into it. And I think eventually, as time continues to keep progressing on, we'll see her back at her highest. But in the meantime, just allow her to ease back into it and get her feet going again.
Satara, how difficult is it to come back as a center back? Because one, I don't want to say this because I'm a midfielder, but you're inarguably one of the most important people on the pitch. How difficult is that return to full match readiness, especially after such a long time out? Because it seems like they've been appropriately handling this very delicately with Girma.
Right.
But what does that rocky road look like? What's that journey?
Mentally, it could be a bit hard. I've had injuries throughout my career where I've been out for 3-4 months at a time, and coming back into it, mentally, you want to get back to where you were prior to it. You want to get back in and put in that hard tackle and knock some heads, but physically you're just not there yet. So it's like you're constantly have like an ongoing battle with yourself. Obviously, Naomi is if not the best defender in the world, and I think her mentality, she'll probably understand that it's going to take some time, but it's hard. It's just like anything. When you've been out for an extended period of time, you really don't, you expect yourself to kind of just pick up from where you left off, but the reality is that you can't. And you just have to build yourself back in. But, kudos to Chelsea for monitoring the situation and hopefully, with the minutes that she gets, they monitor that as well, because you don't want to go from 0 to 100 to then relapse again for something else to happen. So hopefully they'll just gradually build her back in.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like, I know a lot of folks are just like, to your point, you're like, finally, right? Like the return of Girma, we'll see it. And I expect that it will be gradual, but I know we'll be celebrating it winning if it does happen for sure. We've got more Women's Champions League previewing for you coming up right after a quick break.
This is European soccer's biggest stage.
Written in the stars! What a difference she has made!
The question is, can you handle it?
Can you handle it?
The crowd here feels electric. Stream every match of the UEFA Women's Champions League on Paramount Plus.
Hey, welcome back to Attacking Third, presented by CarMax. Want to drive? Let's go right into these next matches, honestly, because they're kicking off very, very soon. Let's talk a little bit about OL and Wolfsburg. I think this is another one of those kind of juicy matches. I think you've got two teams that are coming into this head-to-head off of really good starts to this new era of Champions League in the league play. And maybe perhaps an opportunity for a statement for Wolfsburg. I mean, we're talking about really an icon in Lyon, like the most winningest team in Champions League, and Wolfsburg, who are like no strangers themselves to lifting the trophy in this tournament. Cupo, like, how much of a statement would it be if Wolfsburg goes out there today and takes all 3 points from Lyon?
Listen, that will be phenomenal, but it's also something that Wolfsburg have managed to do before. they have been here before. They've won Women's Champions League. This is not new. They're trying to get back to their greatness. They've tasted that success. They're also in second in Frauen Bundesliga. Their form has been great. Granted, they've conceded a few more goals than, say, a Bayern have, who are comfortably sitting in first, but they're relatively sound. So I think that this is going to be a juicy matchup. That goes without saying, but Lyon have also been just firing on all pistons. They have been a very well-rounded squad. They have a really exciting attack. It's going to be a matter of who can weather the storm. Lyon are going to want to come out fast and hard, and Wolfsburg are going to want to control. So I think we're going to get a really good match. I don't think it's going to be a very high scoring match.
Okay, I think that's fair. I mean, are you feeling one way or the other in this matchup in particular, Sarah?
I mean, obviously, Lyon just historically absolute cheat codes when it comes to European football, aren't they? But I think, like Cupo said, Wolfsburg they're not strangers to this. They're not strangers to games like this. And, and I think with the circumstances that surround this game, I think they have the opportunity to perhaps pull what we would consider an upset. But I agree with Cupo. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game at all. But Lyon, they're Lyon. At the end of the day, you respect what they have, you respect the players that they have. But on the other end of it, I think Wolfsburg, have already proven themselves before. I don't think this game will be any different for them.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Look, I love an upset. We're deep in these. We're like super into these NWSL playoffs right now. We just came out these quarters. I'm like always rooting for the chaos, and that's what this new era of champions.
Drugs.
Yeah, that's what I needed. Tap me in. That's what this new era of Champions League is supposed to kind of be like with the league phase. Like they want to see more opportunity for dramatic finishes or matches and things like that. Kind of level things out maybe a little bit. But it just, I'm with Gary Stein in the chat on this one. What version of Wolfsburg are we going to see? And I think it's just going to be tough taking a look at that roster from Lyon. I mean, it is just so deep. I mean, they've got the depth on that squad to the point where it's just like some of those players could be starters on other elite clubs. We're not just talking like, yeah, they could be a starter anywhere. Like, no, they can go be a starter on like other elite competing clubs. So it's just like wild to think that like at one point during those opening games in the league phase for them, they had Yul Brand coming off as like a bench option. I'm like, are you like kidding me? Like outrageous. So yeah, maybe it'll be spicy in the way that it's close, intense, and narrow. But I just think that there might just be a little bit more for Lyon in terms of their game changers out of this one. As far as maybe some other kind of matches we're keeping an eye on, maybe another German team that we're also looking at saying which version we're going to get. Bayern Munich going up against Arsenal, maybe an opportunity for them to kind of build up. Who doesn't love a slow burn? I mean, they had a terrible start to their Champions League campaign. Barcelona just like reminding everyone exactly who they are, but they've kind of tried to build out after that. They had a good response following that game, and they're back to cutting it up domestically, honestly, in the Frauen Bundesliga. So I think in this one, it's really kind of like who maybe a little bit of who wants it more, and honestly, the adjustments. Like, how is Arsenal going to get a little bit out of their kind of funky form at the moment, especially when the injuries are kind of piling up on there? No Katie Reed after an ACL injury. It's not anything anyone ever wants to hear or like have to cope with like during a season that's already kind of like presenting some question marks, especially as title holders. And not to stir the pot a little bit, but like Cupo, is this what it takes? Is this finally what it means for Jenna Neiswanger to not only make a game day roster but to be utilized?
How that's so down bad. I mean, that's so dire for her.
Yeah.
If it's like, hey, I don't know, man. At this point, I could get called up before Jenna makes a start. It's not good, friend. It's not good. And Arsenal haven't really had great form, like the defensive like sensitivities that they have at this point. Even prior to this, think about it. Coming out of Champions League last round, they cratered for 3 straight matches. So the form has not been great. We'll see. I'm sure Woman Moy back in. I'm sure we'll see Beth Mead back in a defensive capacity. It's yeah, it's I don't know how much she's actually been training with the team to want to even give her a Champions League. I don't want to say start because that's not realistic, but like minute.
No, that's fair. I don't think
Minute.
that's unfair. Like, you're coming at it
I
from a
just don't think
very
that yeah, like
factual point
but
of view. Like,
the chemistry, the flow, but then on top of that, I don't feel the trust is there. And I feel like that is the most important part here is if the trust isn't there that she can get in there and do what's asked of her, it's a non-conversation, unfortunately. But yeah, that's going to be Arsenal's biggest hill to climb this match is that they've had to deal with these like
yeah,
defensive issues. Quite frankly, like I was surprised when we saw Reed get her first Champions League start, which is saying a lot. That's not saying she's a bad player. It just was a shock that she was making her debut given the bench and what they had available to them. And yeah, she's a bright star. It's unfortunate that she tore her ACL, but damn, man, like Arsenal have to figure it out
yeah.
because right now, like they've been hitting pockets of just slumps and defensively, if you don't have that, yes, they've been scoring goals. That hasn't been a problem, right? Even domestically, I think they have like 18 goals scored, but only like 8 conceded. 8, not great, not terrible, right? Very like middle of the road for me as far as I'm concerned in terms of conceding goals.
Yeah.
But it's reflecting in the fact that they haven't had a healthy back line.
No, I think that's totally fair. I mean, I think, and to that point, Satara, like, is that the opportunity for Bayern? Like, looking at how thin Arsenal is in the back, like, are we maybe expecting not so much like an upset, but could we maybe see like the reverse on this one? Like, is this the game where they try to make their own Barcelona type of statement?
I mean, I would. I have such a soft spot for Arsenal that I would,
Yeah.
I want to say don't let that be the case. But honestly, like they are so scarce in the back right now. I'm like, you see that, and you hit them where it hurts. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
think this may be one of those games. I'm praying for Arsenal that it isn't, but it's Champions League. Like this is what this is all about. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, it's every woman for themselves. So I feel for Arsenal. I think with the injuries that they have, especially at the center half position, I just think what is actually going on? It's just so unfortunate. But I think Bayern's not going to care about who's missing and who's there and who's not. They're going to just care about winning and the form that Bayern is in right now. And like we've just spoken about since that 7-1 thrashing from Barcelona, Bayern's gotten their stuff together.
Oh
You
yeah.
know what I mean? They're going to want to capitalize on this as much as possible. So it'll be definitely a really good game to see what actually happens. But and kind of going back on Jenna Swanger's situation, even if she did get minutes, that confidence, is it going to be there? Is she going to feel like she's trusted enough? Is
Yeah.
she going to feel like, hey, these girls, my coach trusted me, my manager trusted me, my teammate? I don't know because she hasn't been playing. So I think overall it's a lose-lose situation, and I suspect when Jenna went over there, that probably wasn't the story that she was fed about minutes going out there. I think had she known this was going to be a situation, she probably would have never gone out there. But we'll just have to wait and see. But I mean, at this rate, Cupo's saying, "Listen, I'll get minutes before she does." Like that's crazy, but that's the reality of it now. So, but I think if I'm Bayern, I capitalize on this as much as I possibly can.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think
I mean, obviously Bayern not unblemished too. They lost Darzil, they lost Oberdorf. But again, they haven't been impacted at all. I think the problem is that Arsenal have had a cascade, I'll call it. We're going to get poetic of injuries defensively, right? Because like even coming out of last Champions League, Emily Fox took a knock on her ankle. We had issues with McCabe. We had other players that were questionable. That it was just a monitoring situation. And I know that when you say, "Oh, it's a monitoring situation," you want to brush it off or whatever, but they're still playing through that. That means there's something going on there, and it's being managed. I again, like we bring up Jenna Neiswanger because like I feel like it's the elephant in the room. She knew when she was going to Arsenal that she was not going to be the first choice. I think she probably was optimistic that she could try to do her damnedest and try to get herself a spot, some minutes, something of that variety. I don't think that she took the gamble expecting it to be this dire.
Right.
But again, like as a footballer, you roll the dice sometimes. And quite frankly, even if I thought I was going to get no minutes and I was just going to ride the pine, if Arsenal came knocking, I'm signing. I'm signing blindfolded. I'm signing with my feet. I don't care. I'm signing. Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I understand her logic. It's just unfortunate that it's played out the way it has. I think that Arsenal at this impasse need to figure out how to offload her because from a financial perspective, she's only diminishing in value. So what team, unless they're getting a bargain basement discount on her, wants to swoop back in and take her to recoup the costs that Arsenal had paid for her? Realistically, like you literally put her in the discount bin and just left her there.
Yeah.
I'm also just like, I don't know. I'm also just like, these also just aren't scenarios that like are just going to be solved like on the pitch. Like if anything, it'll make the questions burn even brighter. Like those flames will get just higher. Like, could you imagine if you were in the case of Jenna Neiswanger and you are given that opportunity and then you do get this start out of nowhere, out of literally thin air, and you go out there and you have a absolutely wildly good performance? That's only going to make that heat like crank it up. Like people are gonna be like, well, where has this been? Like, why have why haven't we seen more of it? But
that's also incredibly hard to do, right? Again, like we're human beings first and foremost, but some players take that sort of defiant energy and can put it to good use. Some people crumble, right? Like I'm somebody, I know myself way too well. If you tell me no, it's enough to put a fight in me that I'm like, hey, let's go. But if you tell me no repeatedly, I'm crumbling inside. And now I'm more worried about how I'm going to not perform, or the nerves alone are going to be something in the back of my mind that are winding, saying, you're not good enough. You're not good enough. You're not good enough. This is why you didn't get to play. You made a mistake. You made that mistake. And that's going to play on loop. And again, this is just the psychology of players and also people in general. Like, how well do you weather extreme adversity, not just a blip?
I mean, I would hate to have to answer those questions or have that test against Bayern right now. Like, I'm just like, no matter who it is, Neiswanger or whatever, popsicle sticks and glue that they use to put in the back line there for Arsenal, this Bayern team is in outrageous form right now. They're back on top of the Bundesliga. They've scored 14 goals in their last domestic three of their last domestic club games. Like it's just going to be outrageous. I don't know. It's going to be tough.
My best guess, knowing what fragilities Arsenal have, Bayern are coming out pressing immediately and trying to force Arsenal into errors and pick off the easy goals early, unfortunately, and seeing how well Arsenal's back line can cope with that. And once they test the air like that, it's going to be wide overloads, and they're going to keep hammering, in my opinion.
It's gonna be exciting. Tap on in, everybody. Games are gonna be kicking off very, very soon. Make sure you tap on in. 12:45 p.m. Eastern. Paramount Plus. Roma versus Vålerenga is gonna kick things off, and then we've got a slew of matches for the return of Women's Champions League. Stick with us after a quick break. We're gonna chat all things NWSL playoffs and playoff brackets.
This is European soccer's biggest stage.
Written in the stars! What a difference she has made!
The question is, can you handle it? The crowd here feels electric. Stream every match of the UEFA Women's Champions League on Paramount Plus.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. We've got everything happening this month between Women's Champions League and, of course, we'll talk about NWSL postseason. That's a wrap on the quarterfinal round. We're looking ahead to semifinals. Started at the top of the show, giving my girl Cupo an opportunity to gloat a little bit because she deserves. My girl deserves. The only one left standing as far as attacking third analyst and the brackets that they selected. It's all in. Gotham.
I hadn't realized until I saw it after the fact that I was legitimately the only one that said Gotham would pull the upset, which is actually comical because I looked at everyone's brackets and was like, "Ooh, we got this is a little spicy," which is funny because Darian said to me like, "Oh, your brackets are a little spicy," and I was like, "I don't know, man. I think some of yours are a little bit spicier than mine." Like Beatty had the wave going a lot further, and I was like, "Ah, man, I see the vision."
I think so did Darian.
They're real young, and NWSL playoffs, that's a horse of a different color. Like that's and I say like oftentimes, especially when we hit this impasse, it's the grind teams. And like grind teams to me are like Orlando and Gotham that end up like powering through despite being the 8th seed. Like I never count them out. And also like Coach Juan Carlos Amaros, we've seen him do it time and time again, that he gets a little something extra out of these players and everything suddenly runs so cleanly. The passing, the chemistry, like Sonnet locked in and just like commanding. It's actually it's a work of art, quite frankly.
Look at you. Go off. Gloat it up. Like I'm here for it. Sarah, like we didn't get to have you on those very early like previewing episode. But as we're looking at the final 4 that are left in this bracket showdown, you've got Gotham and Orlando on the left, and you've got Spirit and Portland over on the right. Are these final 4, is there anyone you've got your eye on in particular to just go ahead and make that run all the way to the final, maybe lift it?
I mean, to be honest, I watched I watched all the quarterfinals, but Gotham really impressed me compared to their last game of the regular season against the Courage, which wasn't it was a no from me, big dog. But it's like all of a sudden you got like this flip of mentality coming into playoffs, which is like normal, right? When you're coming into the NWSL playoffs, that mindset shifts drastically. And I felt like for Gotham, they did so well against Kansas City. Now I know, KC were missing some key players, Temwa and Michelle Cooper. So obviously, like, but and then you have some people playing through injuries as well. So I know KC wasn't at their strongest, but again, kind of like what we were just talking about with Bayern, kind of like hitting Arsenal where it hurts.
Yeah.
I think Gotham did the same, did just that with Kansas City. And I was really impressed just how they were moving the ball. Obviously, I think Emily Sonnet, they were praising her quite a bit, with the commentary, but also I'm just watching her and her experience as obviously having experience in the playoffs, winning NWSL titles. That was obviously very much put on blast, in that game. So I like the look of Gotham a lot. But then also I look at Orlando, I'm like, Marta just did she's like, what, 38, doing a whole 100-yard run and that penalty. So I'm like, Orlando's also looking really good as well.
Flanked by 2 defenders. I'm like, what are we doing, dude?
I'm like, she's not real. So, but yeah, I think for me, Gotham, they look really, really good. So I might say them.
I think, listen, that's fair. I wanted you to get a chance to get your piece in on this too, because you ride with us during some of these high moments, and I'm like, you know what, let's see what you're thinking, and I don't blame you. Like if this is the final 4, I think maybe going into the quarterfinals with the bigger picture, you're like, like who's it gonna be? But when you narrow it down, it's really about the team that's peaking, and it's hard not to take a look at Gotham and what they're doing, and to that extent, Orlando, like looking exactly like who they were a little bit last year, even without Barbara Banda, like credible energy from Marta. It's almost like they know the script because they're the ones who wrote it. Like Kaylee McCutcheon getting on the end of a big one, like he provided as well for them in the early rounds of the playoffs. So that's a huge matchup for me. Let's take a look at Christine Cupo's bracket, because I need the folks to keep gassing my girl up here. Look at this. She had all the picks correct in the quarterfinals with the score like there. Gotham taking over Current 2-1. Pride taking over Seattle 2-0. Portland taking over San Diego 1-0. Spirit taking out Racing Louisville on pens. And now it's the final 4. Gotham versus Orlando. Portland versus the Spirit. And in the championship, though, Cupo, you've got Orlando versus Spirit.
We are revisiting.
How good are you still feeling about your bracket now that we're going into a new round?
So I still feel great about it. What I will add is that I had been hedging when I did the brackets ahead of all of this between whether or not Gotham would actually beat Orlando and make their way to the final. That's something that if I do a gut check right now, I'm still a little bit weary of. But I went Orlando only because I feel like they've been more in form at this point, and they've tasted it so like last year, and they want this again. Like you can't bottle that feeling, but you can certainly try to revisit it. So right now I have a rematch essentially of Washington Spirit and Orlando in the final. However, I have Washington Spirit pulling this off and winning the whole shebang. So
Okay.
right now, like, I still feel good. I just think that if we revisit this, that if it comes to be that we say, hey, Coop, like Gotham managed to do this, I would be super surprised.
I'm curious how things will shake out. I because I think you look at that left side of the bracket now and you're just kind of like it might be one of these two technically lower seeded teams, even though at this point no one's playing like an 8 or no one's playing like a 4, like whatever, like that's out the window. um and you take a look at maybe the other side of things, and I would argue that maybe like Portland is kind of playing a little bit like with some of that energy and the chip on the shoulder a little bit. I asked our producers if they have my little loser bracket because no one's gonna
You're like,
clown
yo,
me.
did you guys
No
bookmark
one's
that one?
no one's gonna no, you guys didn't bring that one up. No one's gonna clown me harder than I clown myself. I promise. Because let me tell you something. You do not you do not want to see the left side of that bracket. Okay. Everything is busted on the left. Like that's 100%. Like, but I love that because again, I'm like, this is what playoffs are 100% like all about. It's why it's like I'm like this is the most wonderful time of day. Look at that delicious terrible bracket. There you go. To the left, to the left. Everything is busted on my bracket to the left. For the exception, okay, if you move to the right though, Portland and Spirit. And
You nailed that.
I guess I got to ride all the way with Portland
right.
at this point. They're the ones I got remaining. But I don't know if to talk about that's the other side of the bracket. I don't know if it's going to be I don't know if it's going to be enough. They got whoever's getting to the final. They either got to go through Orlando on the road, or they got to go through Rowdy Outy and the Spirit at home as well. So it's gonna
And
be
as a Gooner and also someone who has been Rob Gale defender, I am absolutely tickled for him to have made it into playoffs to this point. If he makes it to the final, I will not be mad at all because he literally gets to puff his chest out and be like, this is what I've been trying to do all along. All along. For a while there, I know like last season talking with him on coaches calls, it was like, oh, Rob, buddy, I see it, I hear it. You're telling me we're just not seeing what you're talking about actually develop on field. And then this season, it clicked. It
yeah.
all started to click.
Well, I
So
mean, that's the momentum. That's the energy. We got to see if they're gonna carry with them all the way to DC, and if they're gonna be ride or die. I don't know, Cooper. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling as good about your bracket as as you are about your own. So we'll see. I know playoffs are going to continue this weekend. We'll have a much fuller NWSL preview for everyone on Thursday show. So make sure you tap in. But something else we want to hit on before we start closing out is end of the year awards dropped. I think maybe this is the other part of the conversation where folks love chatting about this and see who's a snub, who do you like. Let's start maybe with MVP. We've got some pretty good candidates here. Tamo Shawinga, I think, is maybe leading the finalists here just with what she can do. But Delphine Cascarino is on here. Esther Gonzalez. Bia Zanerato made this. And Manaka Matsukuo also made this kind of finalist list. If you had a vote in this one, Kupo, are you like comfortable with these 5 finalists? Do you have a case for someone else? You feeling like a snub was made?
I think my biggest problem, and I guess that just is a testament to like the quality and the players that we have to choose from in the pool, is like I'm not mad at any of those shouts. Like maybe expand it, and it's like, no, Cupo, you can't do that. But there's so much talent. There really, really is. And like, quite frankly, I'd probably give Tem Washawinga all of the awards every day for the rest of her life. She's just an alien.
I'm not. I'm happy with this category. I think it's gonna be Tem Washawinga like by miles, just because the incredible player who she is. But something that like happens always like at when these awards drop, it's always like people want to be like, I can't believe the snubs or this and that. But something else also happens for me. Like, and this is not, it's not so much like I can't believe so and so didn't get nominated. I'm constantly year after year like, we need more awards, man. Like we need more awards. Like we need to get in like a most improved or comeback player of the year, like a silver ball, because, and I think I referenced this maybe like on a couple episodes back, like all of us have been singing the praises of Manaka with NC Courage. They looked constantly like a different team anytime she was on the ball, and oftentimes when she was effective, found themselves getting points or flat out wins and making the runs that they were running. But we're talking about a second half MVP here. And when we're looking at end of year of the awards, and this is also where it gets kind of funny, it's a regular season award. Mm-hmm. And folks are going to maybe, as it gets open to a public and fan vote, like folks will be influenced by the fact of the playoffs are taking place right now. So that's what I'm always left with when I see end of year awards. It's not so much I'm just like, I can't believe so-and-so didn't get nominated. Although don't get me wrong, there's plenty of that too for me. Like, I know in midfielder of the year, we got some things to say, but I'm also like, I'm ready to get a couple more awards in here, some kind of way. Newcomer,
class clown,
comeback of the year, silver ball in some capacity. Let's get it cooking. Midfielder of the year might be maybe one of the more, I can't believe type of categories. For this one, it's Kenza Dali, Claire Hutton, Manaka Matsukubo, Olivia Moultrie, and Debinha in this one. And I think the big one for me, Cupo, is no Sam Coffey. I am very surprised to not see her as a finalist here.
Would ride to the ends of the earth for Sam Coffey. And especially since I feel like in this last year, not that we haven't seen like Girls Got Game, but her getting up and just progression that she's been asked more recently to do more of, both for club and country. I think it goes without saying, like she 1,000% not only belongs, like this isn't even saying the winner, like she belongs in this conversation. Like she should have been the first name that you rattled off the list, if not the second. Like that's kind of crazy for me. But yeah, it's crazy to that point, Sandra, because again, like eliminating the playoff conversation, you would assume that some of the recency bias gets sucked out of it, where it's like, okay, let's look at comprehensively the full season. Well, goddamn, like Coffey is like, no, she's the best, if not one of the world best midfielders, especially for like DMs.
Yeah, I'm going to start with the defenders because they've got Jordan Bug of Seattle Reign, Tara McYown, Avery Patterson, and two Kansas City current defenders, and Izzy Rodriguez and Kayla Sharples. And I look at those and I'm like, oh yeah, those are all incredible defenders. Like it makes sense that they're to be finalists. But there's also a part of my brain that's like, I think there's a name missing here. Is there anybody missing for you?
Emily Sonnet, man. Where is she at though? Like, where like is she missing? Like, of course she's missing. I was shocked. I was shocked when I didn't see her name because I was just singing her praise about just how her experience overall with Gotham has just helped them, I think, tremendously, in that quarterfinal, and obviously throughout the season. And I think Emily has shown, even with the national team as well, that, she has that commanding presence about her. And it's just her ability just to read the game, help her teammates around. I was shocked. I mean, mind you, the finalists for this award, great, but I do think Emily is missing and in a big way. So need to go talk to somebody at the NWSL, don't we? Like, but at the end of the day, these are how these awards work. But I do think she was a big name that for sure is missing.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I think one of my initial reactions when I saw a lot of the finalist awards vote drop, I was kind of like, it's going to be very hilarious when we see names on that best 11 that didn't get nominated as finalists.
Right.
Like, I'm like, it make sense. It doesn't really connect for the chat agrees. Kathleen O'Connor in the chat saying, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Sonnet is so underrated by
Yes.
NWSL. You're not alone in that. I can recall last year Juan Carlos Amaros, like, similar sentiments. He's just like, I don't know what this player has to do. Like, she does so much for us, but to not be in the conversation for these kind of end of year awards is kind of wild. And I would also like venture to say that, like, for some of the other awards, whether it's goalkeeper or rookie or coach of the year, I don't know if I want like any kind of sub categories introduced there, but I wouldn't mind if those got extended to maybe like 5, especially as we continue to bring more teams into the mix. So my only thing is, like, maybe like if those are often just comes down to 3 finalists, maybe extend it to 2 more. Let's see what happens when you really kind of mix it up there. But that's not the only news that's out this week in light of NWSL playoffs. There was also the reporting that NWSL is going to officially award its next expansion franchise to Atlanta. We're going to ATL. Like, we've yet to see an official announcement from the league, but I have to imagine if this is where the league is headed, Cupo, what are you trying to see?
Man, I have actually on more than one occasion, I think going back the last couple years, even early on when we talked about expansion sides for NWSL, and I had said Atlanta. Atlanta because they are such a big, fun soccer city, but also they are such a dope black soccer city. Like, you don't understand. The vibes down there are immense. Like, if you want to talk about having a good time, go down there. Okay. And if I said this yesterday, if even a fraction of the fan base for Atlanta United show up for the women's team in Atlanta, it's going to be vibes galore. You don't understand how loud those fans are and passionate. So quite frankly, like, I'm very, very excited about this. I can't wait to go back down there. I like Atlanta. Atlanta's a good time. So, I mean, congrats to those fans. I wait with bated breath for the official announcement, but Atlanta's gonna go off so hard.
Yeah. How you feeling about it, Star?
Oh man, I love Atlanta. It's one of my favorite cities of all time. Like, I at one point I actually wanted to move out there. So I think this announcement is unbelievable. I know there's not an official announcement, but when that does happen, it's gonna be a good time. Every game is gonna be a good time. So trust me, and best believe I will definitely be making a trip down there for a game for sure.
Yeah, no, you love to hear it. You love to see it. And I'm with you, Cupo. Like, I think there's always that part of my brain that itches a little bit. I'm definitely here where I'm like, this is a market that we wanted to see make its return. Have women's professional soccer return to, and it's now likely going to happen with all the numbers that we're seeing behind it, and make sure that it like comes in a time when the league has found itself kind of stabilized, because that's also been the narrative of women's pro soccer in Atlanta that didn't hang around like in previous attempts. But that's maybe not necessarily the case with clubs moving forward in NWSL. So I think it's a matter of like investment, the numbers, the timing, all kind of aligning. And my hope, I have the biggest hopes that the league will recognize the market that it is finding itself stepping into, because I think that's also the other thing. It's like, when we think about Atlanta, and you want to talk about culture and you want to talk about footballing culture, you better be talking about Black culture in Atlanta, and you better absolutely 100% be inclusive of that and make sure that any of those marketing dollars are targeting that culture as well. So I'm very much here for it. I hope we get to see some fun stuff. If we ever get to see like a player going to Atlanta, I think dream transfer for me 100%. The first thing I did was look up Cor Bethune's contract.
Oh, that was what I was going to say. That was who I was going to say. I think anybody from Atlanta, but especially Croy, like, I know, Jane Campbell, Emily Sana, they're both from Georgia as well, but with Croy, she's from Atlanta, and I think that would be an amazing, homecoming, hometown hero. I think that'd be so dope for her, for sure.
Yeah, I love that. Ignoring contracts and all of that, I also say Sonnet. Who doesn't want somebody with like over 112 appearances for our country and 2 championships, 2, 3 I don't know, man. Like gold medal, bronze medal, seasoned player, but also from Marietta, Georgia.
Georgia, right.
Like slot her in there, right? Like you can't get a more iconic defender to start to build your team around than a Sonnet. Granted, Gotham would be like over my dead body, but
Right.
for this thought experiment, that would be a dope get. But I love the thought of Croy going there and it being her team.
Right.
Yeah. You like it. I love it. We're all here for it. Cue up the stank on you. Like, let's pick your Waffle House fighter. Like, Atlanta, NWSL to Atlanta. Let's go.
Can I be a woman who single-handedly grabs chair midair? Can I be that Waffle House employee?
Yes. I already got 2 members on my team right here. I'm going to Satara and Cupo. Let's go. And everyone else in the chat, come through. Thank you all so much. This was a blast. I always love ending off on a high note, having a lot of fun. Everyone, we hope you enjoy being here with us on Attacking Third. Don't worry, we're going to be back with a ton of Women's Champions League content, so make sure you're tapped in and tuned in there. We're also going to be back on Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern to preview all things NWSL playoffs. Make sure you follow Attacking Third wherever you get your podcasts. Go ahead and leave us a 5-star rating and review if you like what you heard. We're available at youtube.com/wgolasso for all of your women's football coverage. For Christine Cupo, Satara Murray, I'm Sandra Herrera. This was Attacking Third.